Before we get into today's feature presentation, I'd like to restate my opinion on Dead Man Walking. Frankly, I think I was a bit too harsh on it, considering the fact that it was made by a third-party source, and frankly, I'd like to reiterate that it's a fine mod. It's got some cool levels and some great ideas, so overall, it's a pretty good time. Okay, now on to our feature presentation. So y'all know how I did that Ashes video a while back, right? So I'm here to cover the sequel now, which I actually played before the first episode for whatever reason. I'm just gonna jump right into it here, and oh wait, before that, this is also your one courtesy spoiler warning. Everything else in this video isn't gonna have a spoiler tag over it, so if you really care about the canon of this series, just go play the mod yourself. I will once again have it linked in the description below if you really do want to play it first. Okay, are they gone? Okay, good. Alright, so you know the rules. Survival difficulty as always for its damage increases and its less ammo. Unlike the first episode, there isn't any sort of tutorial here, just a prologue. From what I can see here, it takes place in the ruins of the Spire and teaches you how to like jump and crouch and basic stuff like that. Once you leave the underground section here, you come out into the surface and see this weird demon fireball thing, and then it just ends showing the Scavenger wake up in a hospital bed. After that, we come to, assumedly a while later after he's recovered from this collapse. He's out on the outskirts of town looking at a small-time loot claim since he lost all of his stuff. Well, I should say he lost most of his stuff. He's still got his trusty crowbar and 45 on him, as well as a duffel bag and a solar-powered lantern. After the splash screen, you get dropped, literally and physically, into the first map of the game, and it's spread around a handful of apartment buildings and the supermarket here. One thing that is immediately clear is the step up in detail of all of the levels. Not to say that the environmental detail in the previous mod wasn't good, it was fantastic, but these levels feel even more like a real place than before. It's great. You know what's also great? The music. Star composer John S. Weekley is back at it again with another album of absolute bangers. This one's even better than the first game somehow, which is a complete genuine feat. Just listen to this opening track here. This OST is so good that it deserves a goddamn standing ovation. It's genuinely that good. Anyways, back to the pacing of this level, you may notice that the secrets are also hidden in tougher spots, like this one, which requires you to jump onto a shopping cart that you push over to this vending machine here and then jump into a vent. In terms of equipment, you can pick up a 9mm autoloader and a shotgun pretty early on in this level. They're both significantly better than they were in the first episode for reasons I'll get to in a little bit. Once you carve a path through the supermarket, you get into this back room here, which apparently is what the bandits wanted, since once you leave the back room, you get jumped by a complete swarm of them, shotgunners and bulldogs and everything. That's another thing about these levels. Going from the first episode to this, there's significantly more monsters than you'll be used to. 53 of them in this first map, and there's plenty more where they came from. Once you leave the supermarket for good, you enter the Undercity for the first time. Notice how I said first time. You can actually visit this place multiple times in this game, more than once actually. The Undercity is the first of the game's two hubs, and to fully complete it, you'll have to travel back and forth between multiple levels on offer here, which is just fucking insane. Like, Boss Dog, man, you really outdid yourself here with full hubs and stuff like that. Anyways, the first place we'll be visiting is Michonne Station again, from the first episode. The guard at the gate complains about us being a dick or something, I don't know, I just skipped through this conversation. The first actual person we talk to is Riggs, and he tells us that we're gonna have to get some parts for our bike to actually work. We need to get our hands on a jerry can full of gas and a fresh battery for it. You may have also noticed a suspicious-looking workbench with a symbol over it next to our bike. That's where we can upgrade our weapons. Yeah, that's right, there's weapon upgrades in this game. Apart from the crowbar, every weapon in the game can be upgraded twice, and it'll give the weapon a new sprite and a new effect. Every single one of these costs 150 junk, so junk actually has more of a purpose now. The first weapon I upgraded is the revolver, which gives it an extended barrel and increases its damage. Now it can reliably one-shot most human enemies and even sometimes the bug dogs now. We can also pick up a second quest here from the barkeeper, Violet. She wants us to find her friend who got lost in the tunnels. And a third quest is also here, but I'll get to that one later. Once we do all that stuff, we head into the second proper level of this hub, which is West Side. This level is awesome. It's set around this old motorcycle plant which has been infested with bandits. The musical track here is also excellent, and fits the post-apocalyptic urban warfare vibe excellently. Once you get through this first section of the level inside of the showroom here, you come across the first of the new enemies, which is a bandit with a 9mm machine pistol. She goes down pretty easy still, and doubly so if you have the upgraded revolver that does more damage. But she can prove to be a problem if you aren't on your A game. She will also drop you said machine pistol, which has some weird graffiti on it that I don't really care for, but anyways. After our encounter with her, you can find some gas in this area here, and in theory you could leave this level now, but we won't be doing that. To go any further, you'll have to replace this fuse to open the gate here. A fresh fuse can be found in the bar, which is just crammed with bandits. I just camp in the bathroom with my 45 and poke at them once they walk in. Once you get out of the bar, you find a sort of machine plant where you can get a bunch of spare junk, and we upgrade the 9mm machine pistol to give it a laser sight. This increases its accuracy significantly, even though it wasn't all too accurate to begin with, but whatever, I guess that's cool. Also, I forgot to mention that you can also pick up a sawed-off shotgun here, which is nice. After you grab the silver key here, you get jumped by a pack of raiders, one of which is actually a mini-boss. He still goes down pretty easy, though. Once you actually kill him, you end up looping back around to the start of the level, which is something that a lot of levels here do. They sort of spiral in on themselves as you open up more paths to make traversal easier. Once we get back to the Undercity, we hovered over to the next level in this hub, which is the Flooded District, and out of the 3 levels that we've played so far, this is definitely one of the best. To start, it's absolutely ginormous, encompassing a fully sized shopping mall and an enormous city section. You start off on the mall and you fight mostly mutants in the early game. There's a couple of cool fights here and there, but the real star of the show is this flooded city area in the middle of it. First off, this area just looks cool. The architecture here is on point, and secondarily, it's fun enough to play through. Is secondarily a word? This segment is mostly against human enemies too, so it's just great. They're mainly packed inside of this Chinese food joint in this gun store. Speaking of the gun store, you can find a package of ammunition primers which you can sell to rigs in the Undercity later. And on the topic of said Chinese food place, it is a secret area that gives you a Master Blaster, which I didn't cover in the first video for whatever reason. It's effectively the same attack that the Kingpin mutants have, a combination napalm launcher and flamethrower. You don't get a ton of ammo for it early on, so save it for dire situations. After you find the Master Blaster, you have to fight a normal sort of raiders, or you can just do what I did and kill most of them with a pipe bomb and take out the stragglers with your small arms. After that, you get into the back areas, but you find a detonator that blows up the shutters to the fast food joint across. I do like the subtle bit of world building here, thinking that the guys who work for the Chinese food place planned out a literal fucking bombing on a competitor is just, well, it's great, okay? Also, I don't know if that's just the raiders trying to get into the fast food place, but shut up, I want to make it the way I want to make it, alright? Once you get inside the fast food place, you can get your hands on a regen stim, and to my knowledge, this is the only one in the entire game. After that, you get into a library full of more bandits, which is great. You can find a duffel bag in this elaborate cache, which requires you to hit 3 switches around the library. He also has a copy of Metro 2033 in there for some reason. The next section of this level takes place in a parking garage, and I upgraded my revolver to allow it to fan fire, like the thing that they do in the Wild West movies. Inside the parking lot, we're back to fighting mutants again, including a new kind of mutant. These assholes who have flaming crossbows and just a crap ton of health. That flaming crossbow bolt is also super fast, so it's really hard to dodge. 2 double-barreled shotgun blasts to the face just to take one of them down? I'd be more pissed, but you get a weapon that completely invalidates these guys later, you'll see. After that, we stumble into a laser tag place, which is this level's big crescendo thing. The arena itself is stuffed full of mutants, but I get the drop on them with a pipe bomb. There's also one of those big mutant dudes tucked back in there. There's just a gobsmacking amount of mutants in there, like, Jesus, man. The music's pretty damn good, though. After we leave and get jump scared by a photo thing called Flash Me, I know, har funny, but moving on, we come across this guy named Walker. Apparently he was the one that found us in the ruins of the Spire, which was rather nice of him. He says that the guy that we should be looking for is deep in the city, so that's where we decide to head next. The next full level here is the Gap, and it's awesome. It can only be accessed through the Flood District, and by far it's the most difficult level on the first hub. Even just being outside irradiates you. To start off, you go through this apartment building here and come out on the roof, where you can get open this gate and kill a bunch of mutants. After that, you end up in some building. I can't really tell what it's supposed to be, but it's fine. Then you go through a couple of underground tunnels, which made me reload my quick saves like 25 times. I don't know why, but my brain was just being turned into jelly as I was playing this level. I was just doing awful, man. Like, damn. But moving on from that, we end up in the theater, and I kill a giant Kingpin mutant there, the first one in the entire game. After that, we get sped out into another apartment building, which is obviously setting up an ambush. Even the music changes to a more suspenseful track once you go into the back kitchen area here. You can also pick up the first part of a craftable weapon, which we won't be getting until later. The battery for our bike is also back there, and picking it up causes the mutants to come out. If you were smart, you placed a couple pipe bombs in front of the monster closets that they come out of. After cleaning up the mutant horde, you drop that into a sewer area here, and surprise, it's the boss in the first game. Somehow he survived too, and now he's out for blood. Or I should say they're out for blood, because, you know, it's still technically 2 creatures. This fight is also way harder than the one in the first game, since I don't have a ton of ammo and a bunch of crazy guns. Once he goes down for good. You could leave the level without killing him, but I mean, really, man? Once you leave, you can find the secret that takes you to a sort of secret level, which is the remnants of the Spire from the previous game. It's a really short level, you get a military rifle, and more importantly, a survey disc, which will be important much later on. Anyways, back to the Gap. Once you get back, you can find the first of our 4 collectibles here, which is the Orc Girl from Hedon. That's right, I pronounced it Hedon. I don't know, I don't think that's how you pronounce it. I just got here, man. You can also find some C4 here and a not secret, which we can use to blast our way into the bank, which doesn't give us anything. It's not like it matters. We can't buy things with money in this game. We use junk. But more importantly, it's connected to a hospital. Inside the hospital is an irradiated Titan stem. It'll be important in a bit. Also, the reappearance of the Hags. I think they're called Hags. I don't know what they are, so I'm just going to stick to that for now. You can also find the gold key here, which can be used to open secrets in all the other levels in the hub. Like this one in Westside, which has a jackhammer in it. After we loop back to the Flooded District, we can find an alternate entrance to the Undercity, which leads us to the area where Violet's friend is. Before we can actually get to her, you have to kill a horde of mutants that this crazy schmuck has been keeping her. Once you actually face him, you can pacify him with the crowbar, which will take him out of his weird trance. His name is Barrett, and he's some raider guy from the Wall, which is the settlement from the first game, you know? Once you leave that conversation, you find Violet's friend, Porcelain. You carve a path through some bug dogs, and she runs off into a vent, presumably to go back to Michonne Station. Once we get back to Michonne, we can turn in a bunch of the quests that we've completed. First, we fix up our bike, then we give the ammo primers to Riggs, then we give this big-ass tub of medicine we found in the gap to the doctor here. Once we go and talk to Violet, she gives us an upgrade for our solar lantern, which I think gives it a bigger overall capacity, but I'm not entirely sure. We can also talk to the guy who runs the pit fights, and he asks us to talk with one of the ringleaders. The ringleader wants us to give him a stim for the mutant that he wants to fight with. We can give him that irradiated stim we found in the gap, and the mutant that we actually give it to absolutely obliterates everything. Then his pet explodes. We still get 120 bucks out of it. After we go around and get a bunch of dodge, we go back to Riggs, and he says, like, you know, you get a junker musket for doing all this cool work for the town, and you might think, okay, a silly little junker musket, but it's more than that. It can be upgraded to have a 3-round mag, already better than it was in the first game, and also a charged railgun shot that deals a crap ton of damage when it's fully charged. This sole upgrade turns this novelty weapon into a complete powerhouse. It can kill a big mutant with one fully charged shot. It literally becomes the most useful firearm in the game. Not to invalidate the rest of the arsenal, but this thing is definitely now my favorite weapon in the game. Once you've kitted out your arsenal, you talk to Riggs and you can finally leave this hub for good. Not before you get ambushed by a bunch of haunts though, which can be easily dispatched with our upgraded junker musket. Once you've done that, you say your goodbyes to everyone and you're back on the road for good. The next full level is Escape from Atlanta, and its main purpose is to get you used to the bike handling again. There are a couple of decent shootouts here and there, like this one inside of the post office here. Once you get out, you come to a closed gate area here with some mook on the other end of an intercom telling you to come inside this building. And obviously it's a trap. There's a psychic mutant lady who picks your ass up and knocks you out. Apparently the mutants and the raiders decided to set up a deal. The raiders get your bike and the mutants get the rest of your stuff, including that briefcase that we needed to deliver. Speaking of the briefcase computer from the first game, Riggs wanted us to deliver it to some guy named Wheeler in a settlement not too far from there called Prosperity. After that, we have a sort of flashback sequence before we come to and get confronted by the psychic mutant as well as this big guy, and a mook with a shield. Oh, we'll get to you later. They contemplate killing you, but they decide not to for whatever reason, which is the biggest mistake of their lives. This next level is just absolutely peak. It takes place in this old hockey stadium where the mutants have set up shop. At the start, you have to survive against waves of cannibals and bug dogs with nothing but our crowbar. This really isn't a problem for obvious reasons. Once you escape out of the area through some vents, you find your kit and... the shotgun mutants. I know, I'm making them out to be a big problem. They're really not, actually. Especially since we have our old friend, the junker musket. The shield can also break because the guys who made this game aren't complete hacks, and they'll also drop you an armor scrap as well as some shotgun shells when they die. Back to the level at hand, though. You carve a path through here, butting heads with mutant cannibals of all shapes and sizes. First through these underground tunnels and through a large section of concession stands. And then you enter out into this big main hall and there's a bunch more guys waiting down there, mainly a kingpin mutant. After that, you go outside to kill some more dudes and grab the yellow key. Once you get back inside, you plow through the final section of mutants and grab the blue key, and then you escape for good, once you crawl through this small pipe at the end of the underground section.
I guess you're really up shit creek.
The next level starts here inside of this waste-style runoff tunnel. After walking through the desert for a while, you find a construction site full of mutants, and from here on out, you're going to be fighting mostly mutants until the end of the game. Also, the music is an absolute banger once again. If I'm being brutally honest with you here, there isn't a ton to this level worth mentioning. There's this train of cars that are all references to various build games, like Gabalco and Duke Burger. There's this cool city section that ends with a firefight in this building here. There's also Richard, who's a mutant vendor who you have to find in a secret. You can have a business-oriented conversation with him, you can even convince him to sell you some supply for some scrap. He'll be important later. Near the tail end of the level, you fight a huge horde of mutants at this concert area. Apparently the pain elementals were supposed to be playing here, so frankly, I'm surprised anyone would show up, even a fucking horde of mutants. After that, you find a guy named Jack under attack from some bandits. After you help him out, he says that he's going to Prosperity, and you decide to do the same. But before we do that, we have to go to this satellite array here. And to do that, you actually have to get a new ride. Enter the Bug Dog Matriarch. They've got a spit and a claw attack, and you can ride them. They're just lovely. Once we ride over to the array, and honestly, it's kind of a mixed bag in terms of pacing and design. It has some cool parts. Not this beginning section in the sewer, though. That's kind of boring. The section in the caves is actually pretty decent. You can find the second collectible here, too. It's a 20-sided Dungeons & Dragons dice, which is neat. Once you actually get to the array proper, there are no enemies, and the music sort of changes to this creepy synth ambience. I even turned the HUD off here for maximum spooky effect. The only real things of note here are the second piece of the big gun we can craft in this console here, which allows us to input the survey disk we found on the spire. It has a map and an audio file, which seems to be someone speaking in Russian, which is definitely odd. The map has a special anomaly on it that we can visit much later on. Once we leave the spook factory down there, we get ambushed by another new enemy, another mutant type who has a master blaster and radioactive grenades. I'm assuming he's 3 cannibals stacked on top of each other with a trench coat and a gas mask. They don't go down easy either. One fully charged junker driver shot and some shotgun shells usually. Once we leave the building, we hop on our bug dog and go to the Badlands. From what the splash screen text says, there's warring factions, poor soil for crops, and most importantly, prosperity, which is this game's second social hub. The warring faction thing is kind of odd, considering that the two factions that are in conflict are literally like in walking distance from one another, but whatever. Once we arrive at Prosperity, the guard at the gate talks about how the roamers are vehicle junkies, which means that they probably have our bike, but for now we're going to do some light work for other people. Firstly, we go to a racetrack and we can race out with a Fiend Patriarch. Once we get first place, we get a cool crowbar skin. It doesn't increase your damage, but it does look pretty neat. We can also get a job from this guy here, who sends us down into the pipeworks to clear out some mutants, of course. Also, there's this weird elevator bug that makes it go up instead of down like it's supposed to, so, yeah, I don't know, man, that's kind of weird. But that's not all that our first Pipeworks visit is going to have. You can find the last part to our final super weapon, the pig. It fires Jusket slugs, and it's also significantly less useful. I just saved it for the final boss. Eventually, though, we do come to a full stop. The roamers are blocking the exit, and if you don't choose to kill them, you end up instigating all of them. So just don't kill them. We also have to get a biosuit anyways to access this quarantine area here, which we have to get through. After you backtrack to the surface, you can go and talk to another scabber named Silver. They want you to go over to the nuclear reactor site and look for a couple of old friends that they haven't heard back from in a while. So that's where I decide to ride off to next. This next level is kind of boring, except for one thing that we'll get to later. You go through the entire level and meet another new enemy, these crazy scavenger dudes with Junker Musk who drop you a pack of slugs when they die. They only appear here and in the final level. Also, there's another new enemy that makes an appearance, these weird bug creatures that are very susceptible to fire, or one fully charged driver shot, which is my preferred method for taking them out. Once you get to this level, find this weird area here, you get the area with the biosuit, and then you huff it back at the start. You can also find this extra side building with some haunts in this safe. This safe is part of a secret that only an absolute madman could possibly find. To start, you have to press this button here, then push this chair into this room that opened, then onto this ledge where you can jump up and flip the switch, which after that turns on the power to this arcade cabinet in the other room. Then you can play said arcade cabinet. No, I'm serious. It's effectively an old school 80s arcade racer game that's complete bullshit and kinda janky, but it's cool that it was even implemented to begin with. Once you beat it, you get this game's fourth collectible, our third since we're playing these in a weird order, and it's a Godzilla plushie. We've only got one more to go. Once I left the nuclear site, I just went straight back to the tunnels to go through the quarantine area. I forgot to report back to Silver, but I do that later, but moving on. We get to the hazard zone, and we have to clear out all this toxic gas in under about 5-ish minutes. It's easy, and I can do it in about 2 minutes. Once you get through there, though, you clear out all the gas, and you can go to the game's best level, which I've been intentionally not mentioning. Upon surface evaluation of the name, it may seem pretty basic. You think, okay, some botanical gardens, so maybe some glass rooms and some plants, nothing out of the ordinary. The beginning of the level is pretty standard. Once you go into this main area here, I don't know what kind of crazy sorcery they pulled off to make this work, but damn, this shit is fucking cool. Even though this level is enormous, it's actually still pretty easy to navigate. Except for this area with the mossy tunnels, I really didn't care for it. I got turned around a couple of times. The reason we're here is to pick up a special kind of seed which can help solve the food shortages back at Prosperity. We can also pick up various kinds of spore sacs, which we're going to talk about later. Anyways, as I was saying, oh yeah, this level's absolutely baller. There's a new kind of spore creature here too, these new ones that have a trap ton of health and have a homing attack, which I never got any footage of because they never ended up attacking me, but it's whatever. The latter half of this level is mainly against those basic mutants, which we're actually in fighting with the plant creatures. Let me think. There's also these offices too, I guess, and this big green fungus room. Whatever, at the very end you pick up the seeds and crawl back into the pipeworks for the third time now. So we go through, get back to the surface, and then we go walk back to Prosperity. I say walk back because at the very end of the race, you can sell your pit Fiend Matriarch to the guy at the front here, and he can give you 300. Usually he'd only give you 100, but since you won the race, you get 300 instead. So we can now talk to this farmer guy named Kyle, unfortunate name, and he asks us for their spore samples, because he wants to plant some in the water supply for Prosperity in an attempt to start a revolution or something. I don't plan on siding with him, but we will be selling him some spores. 2 out of the 5 bunches to be specific. We can also talk to the jailer and the sheriff to join me as a prisoner from the wall. That prisoner is actually Smiley. He offers to tell us the location of a secret cache in exchange for his freedom. Begrudgingly, I pay for his bail, and on our way out we can bump into Jack, the guy that we saved at the end of Upshit Creek. He gives us some cash. The secret that Smiley sent us to isn't even remotely worth it, but it does have this video game cartridge in its landfill, which will be important in a second. So we go back to town, talk with the sheriff, and he sends us to the Baron. He buys our seeds and gives us a job to take care of the roamers by blowing up their ammunition plant. Before we go and do that, though, we actually have to go and talk with the roamers. They're holed up in the old scrapyard, and they want us to clear out a bunker full of mutants before they let you in. Inside the bunker, we can also find the last collectible, which is a briefcase with the Brigador logo on it. Once you actually get into the scrapyard and talk with the leader, he wants us to do the thing that Kyle said and poison the town. We won't be doing that. The only reason I'm ever here in the first place is because if you don't do this, the whole area will be off limits and the roamers are just going to shoot on sight if you go anywhere that you're not supposed to. Once we join up with the roamers, we head back to Prosperity and wait for the mutant horde to move out. If we didn't, the mutants would hear the explosions and come tear some shit up. So we get some C4 and go back to the scrapyard. So we go through, planting bombs, find the secrets. One highlight is when you go into the storage area, you plant a bomb and then some raider catches you after you leave. And you know what, man? I was honest. I told him that I was planting a bomb and he thinks it's the funniest shit ever. Imagine how dumb he's gonna feel when he realizes I was actually planting a bomb. You also have to find your bike, which was taken by this Howard schmuck over here, and we need a duel to get it back. Once we kill him, we go into this garage and find it being watched over by this mechanic. The bike's had some improvements done since the last time we saw it. It's got some biofuel, not necessarily important. This cool skull was mounted on the front, but most importantly, there was just 2 machine guns mounted on the side of the bike. These machine guns tear all kinds of ass. They kill most common enemies in like 2 shots, which is great. After we grab our ride, we cruise off in the distance and head back to Prosperity to deliver the news on a job well done to the Baron. He gives us the key to the road that heads up north, and he leads us to the armor to pick something up. It's a custom ballistic vest that gives us protection against small arms fire, which is pretty neat. Once we're done at Uptown, we upgrade all of our guns, say our final goodbyes, and head off to the gate. Once we get there, we hear some trucks pull up. And, oh, it's you morons again. Let me just, see you around, bandit leader whose name I still can't remember. Once we get to the gate, we have the option to ride out to the anomaly that was on the map that we printed all the way back at the satellite array. So we decided to do that so we can spare the time to go there and do that. Okay, well, the submarine itself isn't red. It's just a communist submarine. Great. The entire level is really spooky and atmospheric. For 90% of it, there's just no music, just the silence with the intermittent creaks of the bows of the beach sub. I even turned off the HUD again for maximum spook effect. Also, this place is haunted. There's more ghost kinds of enemies which aren't haunts, but they're still basically haunts. Once you get through all of the ghost dudes, you come into this sort of cargo bay area which has a free Titan stim for you. This one won't kill you when you use it, don't worry. But to leave this area, you actually have to blow up the submarine. Of course you do. Once you do that, you can actually ride off to the final level. This is it, the final level. And the final piece of playable Ashes content so far. We've met the all-star lineup of monsters. We've got a stacked arsenal. It's just us against a horde of everything that the game can throw at you, basically. The bike somewhat helps with this, considering the fact that it moves relatively fast and has 2 giant machine guns mounted on the side. I suppose that's one way to make the bike handling not a problem, just give it 2 awesome machine guns. There's plenty of pit stops along the way here and there, most notable being this one with a sort of nuclear bomb bunker, which we should be, heading back to later. You'll see why. There's also this one where we go and pick up the silver key that is way far off the beaten path. And we're also just going to ignore the secret route here that I'm taking to go and get the legendary armor. The legendary armor is something I haven't touched on. It's effectively a megasphere and gives you max health and armor. I think it's supposed to look like Max's jacket from Road Warrior, but I'm not entirely sure. Regardless, you eventually get back to the bike and head back to the place where the general that we've been chasing for like the better part of this game is actually holed up. The mutants have already breached the walls of the complex and are already overwhelming the forces inside. It's a good time to use that military rifle since the troops here start dropping ammo for it and it generally does good damage. It also has a really cool pipe bomb launcher on the bottom, which I haven't mentioned. Eventually, we reach a small server room, or surprise, Athena's holed up. Athena being the AI from the first game, if you don't remember. From what I read, she transfers herself onto the briefcase computer, similar to the one that we had delivered before. After some more fighting through hordes of mutants, we come across the general, who talks some shit from behind this bulletproof glass. He says that Athena isn't to be trusted, and she's not who she seems. But that isn't going to stop us. We barge into the control room and deactivate the nukes. Yes, there are on-site nuclear weapons. Well, we don't actually deactivate the nukes. The psychic mutant lady's back, who's the final boss of this episode. Her first phase isn't too bad. She lobs these purple orbs at you that kind of remind me of the Haunt attack. The second phase is where the real shit starts. She gets real fast and does a ton of damage. This is when I pull out the Project Pig and just start blasting. I also use all the stims that I've picked up until this point to just basically cheese my way to the end of the game. Once you take her down, the force field covering the main control panel lifts, and we have to find a way to stop the launches. The panel has a slot that conveniently is shaped like the briefcase computer cord. So we plug it in and Athena takes hold of the computer systems. She temporarily stops the nuke from launching, and for a brief moment we have some time to chat with her. She makes brief mentions of her further narrative, like the DPRI, the Blooming, and presumably another AI called Zeus. She also throws out some hints that there was no nuclear war to begin with, but she doesn't want to elaborate any further. Regardless, she starts up the nukes once again, and the Scavenger is sent off back to that bunker we found earlier. And I know this is like the 4th or 5th time I'm doing the thing with the music, but the music here is just great. Once you escape to the surface, you have it back to the bunker and then just barely miss the nuclear explosions in the distance. For right now, we've survived. Now we get to the Epilogue, which talks about all the characters and factions we've encountered thus far. The general and what's left of his crew just barely managed to escape the blast waves. Now he's heading north to an uncertain point. Michonne Circle experienced a sort of renaissance, becoming a powerhouse of a settlement and a staging point for many other settlements to come. Good for them, they were my favorite hub. Porcelain became a prominent scavenger, good for her. Walker's doing some shady stuff, I'm not really sure, but he's still pretty chill. Barrett, of all people, formed the new raider gang that was founded to take on the stragglers left by the mutant horde. Good for him, he was one of the more memorable characters. Prosperity saw an urge in productivity and output due to the seeds that we got them. Once they had their first successful harvest, after some time, the food and water rationing ended. The Water Baron eventually ended the segregation between the two halves of the community and oversaw the birth of what the game calls a new nation, but whatever. Prosperity Pit Fiend economy also flourished, due to the matriarch that we had found in the possession of the roamers that we sold them. The other nuclear detonation from the sub had some nasty effects in the surroundings, but it only killed Smiley, which is a good thing. Richard's shop is now a good place for finding old world tech and apparently Fallout laser weapons for some reason. Like, why couldn't I have a laser? That's cool. Silver decided to leave Prosperity for good and headed north. All we know is that he's probably going to complain about something or other wherever he's going. Sigma Base is fucked up for good. It got so messed up with the blast that it's effectively impossible to fully man ever again. The rest of the missiles are now in the hands of Athena, and God knows what the hell they're going to do with them. After that, we get a panning shot of the Scavenger triumphantly leaning on some rocks inside the bomb shelter. Where do I even start about this? This game was fantastic. All killer, no filler. It took everything that the first game did and enhanced it and refined it, turning it into an absolute beast of a mod. It even has replay value with the multiple endings to get based on the choices you made throughout the game. Like, damn. If you still have yet to play this game, you're really doing yourself a disservice. It is fundamentally outstanding in literally every single way, and it's completely free. I'm absolutely stoked to see where the series is going next. Bastiak is currently workshopping ideas for an expansion pack and also working on an expansion pack for Heath, so I'm excited to see that and play that whenever that comes out. So that's all for me. Tune in next time when I get to play a game that I'm bad at and embarrass myself.